You're traveling through the unknown, a journey beyond the corners of reality, where the shadows whisper and the chill runs deep. Welcome to the dimension where your deepest fears are given form. This is The Midnight Mystery.
Welcome to The Midnight Mystery. This episode is called My Zombie Apocalypse Diary. In each episode, we delve into the shadowed corners of our existence, bringing you tales of the eerie, the uncanny, and the downright terrifying. From the realms of the supernatural to the depths of the human psyche, no stone is left unturned, no dark secret left hidden. As the clock once again draws near midnight, prepare to embark on another adventure into the uncanny, the eerie, the horrifying, the midnight mystery. I'm David, or at least I used to be. A software engineer stuck in a soul-sucking job, living a life that felt more like a prison sentence than anything else. I was in my early 30s, single, and utterly dissatisfied with my existence. But then, the world ended, and in the twisted irony of fate, I found my freedom in the chaos. I stand on the rooftop of this apartment complex, a place I now call home. It's been fortified to keep the dead out, and to give me a vantage point over the post-apocalyptic wasteland that was once a bustling city. A cold breeze rustles my hair as I stare out at the world below. My fingers trace the edges of my video diary, a camera with no more viewers, but I still talk to it. It's become my confidant, my silent companion in this new life. You know, I used to think my old life was suffocating, I confess to the camera, my voice tinged with nostalgia. But now look at this. The apocalypse. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. I turn away from the camera, my gaze sweeping across the rooftop. Here, I've created a sanctuary, a place where I can be myself, free from the judgments and expectations of the world that used to be. I walk over to a corner where I've set up my easel and a canvas. Before all of this, I'd never had the time or the inspiration to paint. But now, surrounded by the remnants of a broken society, I find beauty in the decay. I dip my brush into a palette of vibrant colors and start to paint a world of my own creation. As the sun sets, I move to my makeshift library, a collection of books scavenged from the apartments below. I've rediscovered the joy of reading, losing myself in stories of adventure and imagination. In this new world, I can escape to far-off lands without ever leaving my rooftop. But my favorite creation lies on the far side of the roof. It's a miniature golf course, complete with obstacles and a hole that overlooks the city. I take my putter and line up a shot, the thrill of the game coursing through me. Who would have thought that a zombie apocalypse could be so much fun? I sink the putt, and the ball drops into the hole. I throw my arms up in triumph and laugh, the sound echoing across the empty streets below. In this desolate world, I've found my own version of paradise. And as I lay down on the rooftop under the starry night sky, I can't help but smile, grateful for the opportunity to start over and live life on my own terms. I wake up to the sound of birds chirping. Well, not actual birds, but the chirping of a smartphone left behind by its former owner. It's been silent for weeks now, a relic of a world that no longer exists. Stretching my arms, I climb out of my makeshift bed and head to the corner of the rooftop where I've set up a small vegetable garden. I've become quite the green thumb in this new world, growing tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers. Watering them has become my morning ritual, a reminder that life still goes on, even in the midst of the apocalypse. Next comes the scavenging. Armed with a backpack and a sturdy crowbar, I descend the stairs to the lower floors, always vigilant, always avoiding the undead that roam the building. It's a dangerous game, but I've gotten good at it. I've even started to recognize some of the zombies by sight. There's the one in the torn blue shirt who used to be Mr. Johnson from 3C, and the one with the missing jaw who was once Mrs. Ramirez from 2B. I rummage through the abandoned apartments, searching for canned food, bottled water, and any other supplies I might need. The scent of decay lingers in the air, a constant reminder of the world that was. But I've learned to block it out. Back on the rooftop, I spread out my finds, taking inventory of my spoils. It's a good haul today, and I can't help but smile as I add the cans to my ever-growing stash. Survival is an art, and I've become a master of it. Now, it's time for the fun part. I walk over to the corner where I've set up my painting supplies. Today, I'm working on a landscape of the city skyline, the tall buildings casting long shadows in the dying light. With each stroke of the brush, I lose myself in the world of colors and shapes, the worries of the past fading away. As the sun dips below the horizon, I clean my brushes and put away my paints. It's time to sleep under the stars, just like I used to dream about when life was nothing but deadlines and monotony. I lay out my sleeping bag, gazing up at the night sky, counting the stars as I drift off to sleep. The next morning, as I peer through my binoculars, something catches my eye. Movement. Not the slow, lumbering gait of the undead, but the frantic, desperate shuffle of the living. A group of people, or what used to be people, is approaching the apartment complex. I watch them for a while, hidden behind the safety of my binoculars. They look savage, dressed in tattered clothes, their eyes wild with hunger and desperation. Survival has turned them into something less than human. I debate with myself, torn between my instinct to help and the fear that they might disrupt my perfect life. In the end, I choose to ignore them, turning away from the binoculars and retreating to the safety of my rooftop sanctuary. As I go about my daily routine, the distant cries of the approaching group grow louder. I can hear their screams and shouts, a haunting reminder of the world beyond my rooftop. But I've worked too hard to build this life, and I won't let anyone or anything threaten it. I water my plants, tend to my vegetables, and lose myself in the strokes of my paintbrush, all the while ignoring the chaos unfolding below. In this new world, survival means making tough choices, and I've made mine. Days turned into weeks, and my daily routine on the rooftop continued unabated. I had become a master at ignoring the world below, lost in the simple pleasures of my life in this twisted reality. One day, I spotted them again through my binoculars, the desperate group that had first caught my attention. They had returned, this time more determined, or perhaps more desperate than ever. Their ragged clothes flapped in the wind as they attempted to enter the apartment complex. I watched in silence as they wrestled with the undead at the entrance. It was a gruesome struggle, a reminder of the brutality of this new world. The groans of the zombies mixed with the shouts and screams of the living, creating a cacophony of desperation. For a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. Should I help them? Should I open the door and let them in? But then, my selfish instincts kicked in. These people could disrupt my peaceful existence, endanger everything I had worked so hard to create. As I watched them, I knew I couldn't risk it. I had to protect what was mine. So, I continued to observe, cold and detached, as they fought a losing battle. They eventually gave up, casting one last desperate look at the building before moving on, disappearing into the ruined city. Relief washed over me, mingled with guilt. I had chosen to ignore their pleas for help, to preserve my own well-being. It was a decision I couldn't shake, no matter how hard I tried to convince myself that it was the right one. In the days that followed, life on the rooftop returned to its usual rhythm. I continued my daily routine, seemingly unfazed by the moral dilemma I had faced. It was during one of my scavenging trips to the lower floors that I stumbled upon a shocking discovery. As I entered an apartment on the second floor, I froze. There, in the dim light, stood a familiar figure. It was Mark, my old friend from college. But Mark was different now. His eyes were vacant, his skin pallid, and his movements slow and uncoordinated. My heart sank as I realized what had happened. Mark had become one of them, one of the undead. He must have been part of that desperate group that had tried to breach the complex's defenses. I should have been horrified, repulsed by the sight of my friend in such a state, but instead, a strange fascination overcame me. I approached Mark cautiously, my heart pounding. He turned toward me, his milky eyes locking onto mine. "Mark," I whispered, my voice trembling. "It's me, David." There was no recognition in his eyes, just emptiness. It was then that I made a decision, one that defied all logic and reason. I couldn't leave Mark here to roam the halls as a mindless monster. No, I would take care of him. I found some sturdy chains and a padlock in an abandoned apartment nearby. With a heavy heart, I secured Mark in a corner of the rooftop, far away from my living quarters. It was a bizarre and morbid act, but in this new world, it made a strange kind of sense. As I locked the padlock, I looked into Mark's vacant eyes one more time. "I'm sorry, old friend," I murmured, my voice breaking. "But you're safer here with me." Weeks passed, and life on the rooftop continued to be my sanctuary. I had grown accustomed to the routine, the solitude, and even my unusual companion, Zombie Mark. Mark had become a sort of macabre pet. I'd talk to him about my day, my discoveries, and my thoughts, as if he were a faithful dog. Of course, he never responded, just stared with those vacant eyes. It was a strange comfort in this lonely world, having someone, or something, to share my thoughts with, even if those thoughts fell on deaf ears. Each day brought new adventures. I spent hours perfecting my mini-golf course, playing round after round under the scorching sun. I painted landscapes of a world that no longer existed, capturing its beauty and decay with every brushstroke. And at night, I'd lie under the starry sky, watching the city's distant fires flicker like distant memories. One day, during one of my scavenging trips, I stumbled upon something that would change everything. As I entered an apartment on the 5th floor, something caught my eye. A door, hidden behind a bookshelf and covered in a thick layer of dust. It had a rusted lock that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. My curiosity got the best of me. I pried the lock open with my crowbar, and with a creaking groan, the door swung open to reveal a room filled with wonders. Canned food, bottled water, medicines, and more lined the shelves. It was a treasure trove of supplies, enough to sustain me for years. But the most astonishing discovery was in the corner of the room, a ham radio, untouched by time. My heart raced as I approached it, my fingers trembling as I examined the dusty instrument. Could it still work? I dusted it off and examined the wiring, realizing it was connected to a small solar panel on the roof. I held my breath and turned the power dial. Static filled the room, and then, miraculously, a voice crackled through the speaker. "Hello? Is anyone out there?" I couldn't believe it. I had stumbled upon a lifeline to the outside world, a way to communicate with other survivors. I quickly responded, my voice filled with hope and excitement. "Yes, I'm here. I'm alive." The voice on the other end was filled with disbelief and relief. "We've been trying to reach someone for so long. Where are you?" I provided my location, and they promised to send a rescue team. As I hung up, a surge of emotions washed over me. I had chosen to isolate myself, to ignore the world, but now, a chance for rescue had come knocking. I returned to the rooftop, my heart pounding with anticipation. I looked at Zombie Mark, my bizarre companion. "Mark, old friend," I said, my voice tinged with both sadness and excitement. "Looks like our time together is coming to an end." As I prepared for the arrival of the rescue team, I couldn't help but wonder about the world beyond my rooftop, the world I had chosen to ignore. What would it be like out there? And could I ever truly leave my sanctuary behind? The next morning was supposed to be the beginning of a new chapter, a chance to rejoin the world and leave my rooftop sanctuary behind. But what awaited me was a nightmare I couldn't have imagined. I woke up with a sense of urgency, my heart racing as I remembered the rescue team. I rushed to the ham radio, hoping for an update, but there was only silence on the other end. Anxiety gnawed at me, and I decided to head to the roof to get a better view. As I ascended the stairs, dread settled in my gut. I reached the rooftop, and my eyes widened in disbelief. Zombie Mark was no longer in his makeshift prison. Panic coursed through me as I realized the implications. Somehow, he had broken free from his chains. Frantically, I searched the rooftop, calling out to him in vain. My heart pounded in my chest as I turned a corner and found myself face to face with him. Mark's milky eyes locked onto mine, and with a guttural growl, he lunged at me. I stumbled back, but it was too late. His cold, rotting hands grabbed hold of me, and I could feel his foul breath on my face. I pushed and struggled, the adrenaline pumping through my veins, but he was relentless. It was a horrific struggle, a battle for my life against someone I had once called a friend. As I fought for survival, my vision blurred, and the world around me faded. In one desperate final act, I managed to grab a nearby pipe and plunged it through Mark's skull. He fell to the ground, lifeless once more. But I knew the truth even before I felt the searing pain in my arm. I had been bitten. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, and I clutched my arm in agony. I had become infected, just like the countless others who had fallen victim to this relentless plague. With trembling hands, I staggered to my video diary, my vision growing hazy. I had to document what was happening to me, to leave some record of the horror I had become. The camera focused on my pale, sweat-soaked face, and I began to speak, my voice shaky and filled with fear. It's happening. I've been bitten. I don't have much time. I thought I could escape this world, start anew. But now, I could feel the change already, a coldness spreading through my veins. My fingers twitched, and I struggled to hold the camera steady. In the final moments of my humanity, I whispered one last plea. If anyone finds this, remember me as I was, not as a monster. The camera slipped from my grasp, clattering to the ground. The last thing it captured was my anguished scream as the transformation overtook me completely. The world went dark, and I became one of them. A mindless, ravenous creature, hungry for the flesh of the living. In the end, my rooftop sanctuary became my tomb, and my video diary, a haunting testament to the brutal twist of fate that had turned me from a survivor into a monster. I hope you enjoyed our episode. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thanks to you, our brave listeners. Your presence in this shared journey into the unknown is what fuels our stories. Your fascination is our motivation. Did this episode send chills down your spine? Then leave your comments, your thoughts and theories, your own midnight mysteries. Your feedback is the beacon that guides us through the uncharted territories of our stories. And if you haven't already, remember to subscribe to our channel. By joining the Midnight Mystery family, you won't miss out on a single chilling tale. As a subscriber, you'll be the first to know when a new episode lurks around the corner, ready to pull you back into the shadowy depths of the unknown. This is the Midnight Mystery signing off, leaving you with a simple reminder. When the clock strikes 12, fear the silence, for that's when our tales come to life. Good night, Midnight listeners. And remember, not all who wander into the dark are lost.